All right, I want you to put your real estate hat back on, and I want to ask about investors. I mean, I know real estate investors have been going into the real estate market, especially targeting seniors, for a long time. But am I crazy, or is it happening more than it ever has? And what does that mean?
Well, it seems like it's happening more than it ever has, especially with social media. We're seeing a lot of it. I mean, keep in mind, in 2003, I was an investor. I used to buy bank-owned property. So I understand the mentality of it. And that experience that I have really helps me with my traditional real estate business today. It also helps me work with established investors today in that rare situation when a property needs to be sold that way, but I think it's a very, very rare situation. And we can dig a little bit deeper, but older adults tend to be focused on by a lot of folks who may not be as ethical as we might want them to be.
Well, let's face it, that phone rings all the time.
It's ringing all the time. There's no question about it. And the idea of selling a home and not doing anything to it and getting cash and leaving everything there is very, very appealing. The downside to doing that is that a lot of the time it's not necessary. We can accomplish the same thing in a similar period of time and get I think, a much stronger offer. So what I often will do is if someone says to me, I want to sell my home as is, I say, well, can I come see it and kind of get a feel for it? And we'll go look at the house. If the house is really beat up and really deserves to be sold as is, and I think that's less than 10% of the properties that are out there, it's got structural issues, it's got this, it's got that, then what I do is I bring in 3 or 4 licensed real estate agents who buy as investors. And I like licensed real estate agents who are investors because at least there's that certain bar of entry, right? You know that they've passed a test, you know that they've been checked by the state, and you know that there's some accountability there to the board of realtors or whoever it might be. So I think that's really, really important. So I think being licensed is really important. Otherwise, if you're going to do a deal with someone who's not licensed, where are they even coming up with the contract? And is the contract even a contract that is somewhat not biased? So that is really, really important to me. So I'll bring in 3 or 4 licensed investors, and they always say the same thing to me. How much do they want for the house? And I always say, it's not how much they want for the house, it's how much you're willing to pay for the house. So I have what's called a cattle call. I bring in 3 or 4 investors, and I say to them, between 11 and 12 on whatever date it's going to be, we're having a cattle call at this particular property. Why don't you come take a look at it and see what you're willing to pay for it, if you're interested in how much you want to pay for it. And they all come back to me, and they kind of creates a sense of competition. And I typically will get more for the property, even though I'm earning a small commission on that, than they would have in the other way. And I'm talking 25% more, sometimes even more than that. Wow. Now, there are rare exceptions that I'm not able to accomplish that. So what I will often say is, if you already have an investor's offer, great, keep that in your back pocket. Let me come in. Let me bring in my people, see how much they're willing to pay. And if they're willing to pay more after my commission, you're netting more, then great. If not, I'll be happy to stick around, and I'll be happy to help facilitate things on your behalf at no cost.